Okay, in the syllabus, your chapters, we don't discuss the chapters in order as they appear in the book. So the chapter we're going to look at now is called Evaluating the Literature Review. And I don't want to go by the numbers because every edition of the book has mixed up the numbers. In my book, it's chapter 9. In your book, it might be a different chapter, but the content is the same. It's the chapter on evaluating literature review. This is an extremely short chapter. However, I would like you to do a few things for our next class, okay? There are two examples in the book. One is an example of quantitative research. The second one is an example of qualitative research. And I'd like you to just read the examples. Well, read the whole chapter, but we're going to discuss the examples that they provide. The next thing I'd like you to do is I'm going to share my screen real quick. We're going to go to D2L. And if you look here, we have final paper by Kayla Benzio, and we have the Calm handout. I would like you, I'll pull it up, to read her paper, okay? She includes a pretty nice literature review here with all of the different sections. The first thing that we are going to go through next week is this literature review outline. And it talks about all the different sections in a literature review. But for this week, I would like you to read her paper, read her outline on her model, and read this chapter and the two examples, the case study of a quantitative and a qualitative methodology. And of course, we're also going to be discussing your ideas for a topic. Okay, I'd like to go over just a few things in this chapter because we're going to spend a lot of time on the components of a literature review. We're going to walk through it step by step, but there's just a few things that I underlined in this chapter that I really want to call your attention to and talk about. So there are specific guidelines on how we evaluate a literature review. So in one sense, this is if you're doing some research on, a problem in a school or an issue with a student or a DSM diagnosis in clinical mental health counseling, or something to do with treating addiction, okay? This is how, if you find an article on this, well, how do you evaluate the research? How do you evaluate the literature review that you're reading? Is it a good one? Is it comprehensive? Does it include what you need to know or not? In addition to this, it's not only these guidelines are not only showing you how to evaluate what somebody else wrote, they're also showing you how to evaluate what you are going to write for this class, okay? You are going to write a literature review for this class. So here's some guidelines, okay? As mentioned earlier, the major purpose of the literature review is to develop an argument for conducting the study. Why do we need the study? Is it a problem? Has it been solved yet? So several related questions may be asked concerning this argument. A, do the researchers present an adequate rationale for conducting the study? Okay, so what's going on? Is this a problem? How much of the population does it affect? What's the severity of the problem for either individuals or quantitatively? So does it affect individuals' quality of life to a significant degree? Does it affect quantitative, large numbers of people? Okay, so it might affect small numbers of people, but in a very severe way. It may affect large numbers of people, so we have large quantity of number. It may do both. It may affect large numbers of people quantitatively, and it also might affect them severely. So you might have both qualitative and quantitative rationale for this. Okay, there's probably, you have to look at what's been done and has it worked. Okay, so maybe nobody's addressed this problem. Nobody's tried anything. Maybe it's a new problem. Maybe it's a problem that nobody has addressed. Maybe a lot of people have addressed the problem before. Maybe there's a lot of studies, but none of them are that effective. So maybe you're going to come up with a better, more effective treatment plan, a more comprehensive treatment plan. Maybe nobody's tried multiple theoretical applications together, okay? Or maybe you're going to try something brand new, or maybe a combination of things, okay? B, so what? Or a related question is, what difference will the study make to the field of counseling or education? And that's why I'm asking you to come up with a new concept. The whole reason we're becoming counselors or school counselors or clinical mental health counselors or counselors treating those with addiction, whatever type of counselor, the reason we're becoming counselors is because we want to make a difference. We want to make a difference in the lives of our clients. Fantastic. This even brings it down to a more specialized area of application. Okay, so we want to come up with one population, and we want to find a better way to treat that issue or diagnosis than has been done before. We want to try something new, and we want it to make a difference in the lives of people suffering in that population. All right. It says, do the researchers present any potential biases in the literature review? We want to avoid that. And there's lots of kinds of biases. In fact, we're going to talk about biases on its own, all of the different types of biases. So it's not only like maybe people have cultural biases, but there are all kinds of statistical biases, of research biases that, because if we invest our time and energy in coming up with a treatment, we want it to work. And we may view the results with a bias that is more favorable than not. For example, does the research cite only his or her own prior research? Are all important concepts clearly defined by the researchers? We're going to have a section on definitions. We'll talk about each of the sections. Another area of concern is whether the literature review is thorough, comprehensive enough to develop the argument for conducting the study. So it keeps leading to the study. Okay, the study. We're not going to conduct a study, but we're going to propose a study. We're going to say, hey, this new method is so fantastic. We want to see if it's effective or not. We want to run a study, and this is how we're going to run that study. Give me funding for that study. Okay. So that's how far we're going to take this. This is a great idea. We want to help a lot of people. Let's see if it works or not. Let's get some funding and run a study. Okay. We're not actually going to run it, but we're going to propose. This is what the study is going to look like. Finally, the literature review should include a description of any new methods in a particular area of study that relate to the current study. Question to ask is, do the researchers clearly describe previous methods that are relevant to understanding the purpose for conducting the study? So if you read the paper that I put on D2L, she examined all of those individual methods of treating PTSD, and some were more effective than others. Her idea is that a combination of different methodologies will work better than any singular individual treatment. Okay, so she took into account all of those other methods. She discounted the ones that don't work very well. She added a few things that were never used for PTSD, and she included the things that have proven to work to some degree. So what doesn't work? What's been done that does work? What are some new things that we can also include? What's the ideal combination in a comprehensive treatment program? And you'll see how she laid that out in that paper. It's a nice example. And I'm hoping that as you read it, it will help you to better understand how to organize your thoughts for this project. Okay. Okay. Then they have, okay, what do we ask when we read a literature review? What kind of things do we ask? Do the researchers present an adequate rationale for conducting the study? So what, or what's the difference? What difference will the study make to the fields of counseling or education? Is the literature review thorough or comprehensive? Now, when we say thorough or comprehensive, we want to do two things. We want to go back in time, because some of these theories, like Gestalt, are old theories, but they work really well with certain things. So we want to go all the way back in time, so that if we want to use one of these earlier theories, we can. However, we also want to include the last 10 years, the most recent articles. Okay, we're going to have Ryan Sittler, Dr. Sittler, come and talk to our class about how to do research using the library and other methods, how to narrow it down to the last 10 years or to include all studies. So we're going to get into the specifics of this. This is just a basic overview, okay? Do the researchers demonstrate any potential biases in the literature review? Are all important concepts clearly defined? So we have, make sure we consider, we don't want any biases. Make sure we define all of the main terminology and components. Do the researchers clearly describe previous methods that are relevant? Okay, so we don't want to just exclude some methodology that's been used for years. We want to include it. We want to look at how effective is it. Maybe it's, effective for 70% of the people. What are we going to do with the other 30%? How are we going to help them? And that's really my main concern. That's my main question in anything I do. how am I going to better help my clients? Okay, and that's the question you should be asking as you move through this process. How am I going to help this population? What can we do so that we'll have better success with these clients, so that these clients can have more happy and fulfilling lives, so that we can help to relieve their symptomology? That's our goal as counselors, and research is part of that process. Okay, this was very brief, but the chapter is only like 10 pages. So those are the main concepts, just a basic overview. But please read Kayla's paper, read her outline for the CALM model. We're going to discuss that in detail our next class. Read the case sample of the qualitative and quantitative study in the book. We're going to go over those in the next class. Begin to think about a topic, a population that you want to address and help in your research paper. Okay? Thank you.